Hello, it's Graham from Derby Museums, and today we're going to make a type of camera called a pinhole camera. Now it's a very simple camera, it doesn't have any lenses or any film, but it will teach us something quite surprising about the way our eyes see. So for this make you're going to need an A4 size piece of black art paper. It's a bit thicker than the sort of paper that you'd use in a printer. We need another smaller size piece of that paper, some scissors, a sharp pencil, some tape, a small piece of tracing paper, or you can use this non-stick baking paper, and some hot chili powder. Okay, you don't actually need hot chili powder. This is just exactly the right size that I need to wrap the paper around. So if you have one of these spice jars, you could use obviously any spice you like, or you could use some pepper, just something that's about this size that you can wrap some paper around. So let's make a start. We're going to start by preparing the two small pieces of paper that we've got. So we'll take our hot chili powder in this case, and I'm just going to draw around the base to make a circle, and I'm going to do the same on the tracing paper. So I think you can probably see that one a lot clearer than this one. I'm going to take my scissors and make cuts from the outside in towards the circle, not quite reaching the circle. Imagine you're drawing a picture of the sun and you want lots of rays coming off the sun, and we're cutting all of those rays. So we don't want to actually cut into that circle. And we'll do the same on our black piece. Okay, now to prepare them for use, we're going to fold all of those pieces down, because these are going to be tabs that we'll use for sellotape. That's one piece. Try and make it so that the top is as flat as possible. So I find that holding it in place and then putting your hand down like this, and then just slowly go around. Now I can see a piece of my circle there, that doesn't really matter, I'm just going to move it over a little bit. And those two pieces are now ready for us to use later on. So our next job is to take our A4 size piece of paper. I've got it landscape here, so it's wider along here than it is along here, and I'm going to fold it in half. Make a fold here and open it up and fold it back on itself, and then once you open it up you have a line that's exactly in the middle, leaving two A5 size pieces, and you can cut those, or actually you can carefully give them a tear. So there we have our two A5 size pieces. We're going to go back to our spice jar, and I'm going to roll one of these pieces of paper around the spice jar. Keep it nice and tight. Now if you can see, I'm now holding this so it's narrower towards me than it is away from me, and that should allow us to wrap that around the spice jar quite a few times. There we go, we've got a good overlap there. I'm just going to adjust it slightly so that the ends are nice and level, and then I can use my tape to secure it. Now if you don't have a spice jar or a pepper pot or anything of that sort of size, you can still make this, it's absolutely fine. This just makes it a little bit easier. So now I'm going to push my spice jar down to the end so it's nice and flat here, and I'm going to place that on top of the white piece of tracing paper, like this. I'm then going to use tape to tape up those flaps that we cut, trying to keep everything nice and tight up against the spice jar, and this will help the tube to keep its shape. It's worth spending the time to make sure that that's well secured. Okay, that's good. Now my spice jar is still in there, and I'm going to keep it in there while I wrap the second piece of paper around the whole lot. I'm going to wrap that around. I don't want to make this one too tight. It can be, I don't want it loose, but we don't want to have it too tight. So again, I'm just going to make sure that those edges are nicely lined up there. So we can put some more tape on. Now I'm only taping the new piece of paper to itself. This is the first one we did, and that's still in there. I'm not taping that to it at all. So you can see now I've made a new tube here that the old tube fits inside. And again, I want to make sure there's our piece of greaseproof paper, our piece of tracing paper, and I'm going to push the spice jar right down to the bottom so that it's nice and solid around here. And now I'm going to place this on top of the black piece that we cut and start to tape this piece up. I'm being careful not to put sellotape over the end. I want to try and keep that so it's just paper. So I'm only putting this tape along the side. Okay, that's almost done. And a nice long piece to just tidy it all up. Okay, so now I'm going to take out that first roll that we made. Take out the spice jar, and I'm just going to have a look down this second one that's got the black cap on, just to see if I can see any light escaping. And actually I can see a little bit of light there, so I'm going to try and use my tape. I think it's coming from just about there, just to push that down. Be very careful now, because we don't have that spice jar in. You can put it back in if you like, just to make sure that it's nice and solid. If you don't have that in, it's just going to collapse. Let's see how that one looks. Right, so our next job is to take our sharp pencil, and we're going to make a pencil hole right in the centre, or as close as you can make it, of that end cap. So I'm going to push that in. Now, you don't want to push the pencil all the way down. You only need to make a small hole like this. And also make sure you've taken this piece out first, otherwise you risk making a hole in this tracing paper, and that will ruin the whole build. So now we need to put it all together. So once again, I'm going to take this tracing paper end and slide it carefully. Now you might want to do a bit of twisting as you do. There we go, and just slide it into the new piece. And that is your pinhole camera made. So how do we use it? This hole here is going to be our lens, and we're going to put our eye up against this side here, point the pinhole at a source of light, for a window for example on a sunny day, or even one of the lights in your room, and we're going to look through the other end and see what we can see. The one thing we do need to be careful of is that we never point it directly at the sun. So we're now looking through the end of the pinhole camera, and you can see an image through my window here. And if I slide one tube inside the other, you can see that's making the image smaller and larger. But the other thing you may notice, if I tell you that there are trees outside this window, is that the image is upside down. And we're going to take a quick look to see why that's the case. So how does our pinhole camera work, and why is the image upside down? Well, I've taken the camera that I've just made, and I've cut it in half so you can see through. Just here we've got the pinhole, and here is the tracing paper. You can see just there. And I've drawn that onto the paper below. So we've got the pinhole, this is the outside tube, and then here we've got the tracing paper on the inside tube. Here's our tree, and the sun in the sky is shining down and lighting up our tree. And the tree will be reflecting those light beams in various directions, and a few of those light beams will pass through our pinhole. Now those light beams travel in straight lines. So if we draw the light beams in that pass through our pinhole, let's draw one from the bottom of the tree. Now it has to stay in a straight line, and that's going to hit the top of our tracing paper. If we do one from the middle of the tree here, trying to keep a straight line, that's going to hit our tracing paper in the middle. And we'll do one more from the top of the tree through our pinhole, and that's going to hit our tracing paper at the bottom. Now the tracing paper, acting as a screen, is going to allow us to see that light that's coming through, and since the light from the bottom of the tree is hitting at the top, the bottom of the tree is going to be at the top of our tracing paper, and the light from the top of the tree is hitting at the bottom. The top of the tree is going to be at the bottom of the paper, and the middle into the middle. So actually, in having this hole and only allowing a few of these light beams through, just the ones pointing in certain directions, we are going to end up with a reversed image. Now this also shows on this diagram how when we slide one tube in and out of the other, our image changes in size, because if we move this screen here to here, you could see that the top of the tree would be there, the bottom of the tree would be here. So we'd have a much smaller image and a much bigger image if we go back that way. And perhaps we wouldn't even see the whole of the top of the tree. If we went right back to here, we'd have the top and the bottom part of the tree cut off. So I said that I was going to show you something surprising about the way our eyes see. So I've drawn a very simple picture here, a sideways view of an eye, and here is the black part at the front, the pupil, and that's where the light will pass through, very much like our pinhole camera. Inside there we have a lens which helps to focus it, and then at the back of the eye there's something called a retina that will collect that image and pass it on to the brain through the optic nerve, which is down here. So I've also put some eyelashes in there. We'll put some eyelashes. So let's have a look to see how our picture of the tree is going to travel through our eye. So again, we've got the top of the tree here. It comes through the pupil and it ends up at the bottom of our retina. And the bottom of the tree is going to come through the pupil and it's ending up at the top of our retina. Does that sound familiar? Because that's exactly what's happening with the pinhole camera. The middle of the tree in the middle here. So let's just draw what that tree is going to look like to the back of our eye. Just the same as with the pinhole camera. The images that are captured by our eyes are upside down. That information is then passed through the optic nerve to the brain, and the brain very cleverly turns them the right way up so that when we look around us, we see everything the right way up. Once you've built your pinhole camera, you can try some experiments. Try making the hole at the end larger. This should let more light in, but it will also be a more blurry image. A smaller hole will let less light in, so it might be darker, but the image should be much sharper. Now, if you don't have any of this black craft paper, something that you probably will have are some toilet roll tubes. And here's a much simpler version that I've made using a couple of old toilet roll tubes. So I've taken one empty tube, wrapped some tin foil around the end, small hole in the end of the tin foil there. We've got our piece of tracing paper, greaseproof paper on the end. And on this second tube, I've cut it down the middle, overlapped it slightly, just to make it small enough to slide inside the first. And there we go, a much simpler version of our already simple pinhole camera. So have fun experimenting, and we'll see you next time.